One of the most famous questions about Chanukah, a very well-known question, is that of Rav Yosef Karo. The miracle of Chanukah was the Jews found enough oil that could burn for one day, and it would take 8 days to get replacements, and lo and behold, the miracle was that the oil that should have burnt for one day burnt for 8 days. So the obvious question is that day number 1 was no miracle, and therefore why should Chanukah be an 8-day holiday? It ought to be a 7-day holiday. There are literally at least 500 answers to this question. I will not give you 500 answers, but I want to suggest an interesting answer. The miracle might be that they bothered to light the oil at all. Because after all, you're confronting a situation where whatever you do today, you will not be able to do tomorrow. Whatever you do will not have any long-lasting effect. What's the use of starting? What's the use of lighting that little insignificant cruse of oil, which will have no continuity and no long-lasting effect? And the miracle was that they did what they could do, even though they thought it would be insignificant and ephemeral. And yet, what did God do? God took the puny, insignificant efforts of a small group of people and magnified them beyond what they thought would even be possible. The miracle of Chanukah. Indeed, the whole Hasmonean revolt against the Greeks was a small number of people fighting the largest and greatest military empire of the world at that time in order to establish the primacy of Torah. One certainly would have forgiven the Chashmonaim if they would have said, what's the point? Let's either surrender or let's go to the hills, to the mountains, to the caves and practice our religion privately. What is the point of trying to fight an enemy that is many more times more powerful than we are? And yet the lesson of Chanukah is, when you're confronted with darkness, when you're confronted with evil, and you feel inadequate, and you feel unable to rise to the task, and you have a feeling that what's the use of doing anything in a world that is so engulfed in darkness? The miracle of Chanukah is, if you do what you can, God will bless your efforts beyond what you thought was possible. This is an extremely important lesson for us in the 21st century. We live in a world that is filled with darkness. The darkness of war, the darkness of violence. It's been a little bit more than a year since the Hamas massacre of October 7th. The darkness of ignorance, assimilation, intermarriage, anti-Semitism, poverty, depression, despair, angst, lack of shalom bayis. All of this is darkness, and it is the mission of every Jew to try to bring light in that darkness. But sometimes, and maybe often, we feel so inadequate. We feel our efforts are so puny and insignificant. What's the use of even trying? Every year, the message of Chanukah is, light the light that you can, and God will bless your efforts. B'ezrat Hashem, may all of us, in our own lives, our personal lives and our communal lives, be lighters of lights, and may God bless that light to dispel the darkness that engulfs us. Chanukah Somayach.